When you're looking to build a team of folks in the church as a church pastor, or of youth workers, folks who are invested in this kind of work, what do you look for in those individuals, and how do you begin to build and support this team that you're creating? And for folks, of sort of part two to that question, for folks who are already doing this kind of work, what are some training materials or resources that they can use as they continue to do this great work they're already doing?
Well, I think one of the things, I consider myself spiritual. I am undoubtedly a person of faith, and I believe, and I think my experiences have taught me and helped me to understand that believing sometimes is not always enough, because believing can say that, yes, I know that this can be done, but it's another thing to take the action, and I think it takes spirit to do that action. So for me, in identifying people who can actively and successfully work with youth and creating spaces in which they can be engaged, there has to be a sense of a spirit. That they are spirit-bound and spirit-led, not just by a spirit of God, but a spirit-led and spirit-bound to be a blessing to young people. And I think when you can identify that first in an individual, and that they have a sense of calling or an anointing toward working with young people, then I think the rest of it is much easier. And so that does take some training and development. I feel led to say this as well. I know that we see the issues with youth, and we need to get youth in our church, or we need to do something with the youth because we are, quote unquote, losing generations and all that kind of stuff. And that is a sense of urgency. And so we think that we have this idea, we get some people to volunteer to do it and jump right in. I think that's the biggest mistake that we can do. There needs to be time to not only identify your team, but also to align that team. And aligning that team means that there's some training, there's some development, there is some coexisting, if you will, among the team members, a one accordness of thought and philosophy, even an understanding of community and etc. Are necessary in order to launch and to do. Now, what are some things I think are some great materials to train? I think there are a number of wonderful protocols or paradigms about mentoring that are good, but I also want them to be very cautious about we are not somehow teaching them anything. As I said in the lecture earlier today, we're really trying to point them. We're trying to aim them at a purpose and a plan that God has designated for their lives. And so those things are good. Mentoring tools are good. I also think that this sense of there is this book by Dr. Naeem Akbar, I think is a must read about helping people to deconstruct, reconstruct, and construct. I think casting vision. There's a book by Andy Stanley called Visioneering that I think is an excellent tool that kind of uses a quote you could do with your team about through the book of Nehemiah. About casting vision, helping people cast vision for their lives. I also think practical knowledge and sharing. Even in my overall ministry and other components of my ministry, they all work from this idea of shared experiences towards shared resolutions. I think we discount the wealth and value of our everyday walking around experiences that got us through the period of our youth, and really kind of storytelling and gleaning from that and creating a unique and undeniable protocol or paradigm that you can't fall from, that you can't forget, because it's your experiences. And the more you share that as a team and align each other together, more it becomes our experiences and thus our resolutions.
The thing that came to mind is Jesus using parables, and he used so many parables from the agrarian society because that was his context.
Right.
That might not be the context, where Church X is right now, but being able to use stories from our lives to influence the lives of young people and to get everybody thinking more openly and with open hearts about those things.
One of the things that I am eternally grateful for about an excellent academic preparation is not that I am bound to some established protocol or paradigm or toolkit, but that I have been equipped to develop one that is uniquely and distinctively mine, or used in my particular. That's what education is supposed to do. I think, though, it becomes easier for us to grab from this resource and grab from that resource and use that, and then it's easier to blame somebody when it doesn't pan out the way that it has. But I think you will get greater impact and you will get greater return when a team or group of people that specifically develop something that is uniquely and distinctively their toolkit for the purpose of their environment. Because I think us being socially and culturally competent to work and engage youth is more important than whether or not we have the latest Dr. Spock information.